Okay, so we've covered our tools and settings. Now we're going to take a look at audio. There are 2 lectures left before we finally start our first assembly in the cut panel. And in this one, we're just going to talk about general audio and general limitations with audio in the cut panel. And in the next one, we're going to talk about the stereo fixer effect because it can be quite useful, especially for interview and factual projects and vlogs as well. So first things first, let's talk in general terms about audio in the cut panel. Now, one thing you might be wondering is where exactly is my audio in this setup? I only see blue bricks, I only see video edits. And that's because in the cut panel, if we bring audio and video in together, then they both get kind of put together in one item on the timeline. The audio does not necessarily turn up in a dedicated audio track beneath. But in the Tools window, remember the abacus and the musical note, which is volume, you can see if I bring the volume up that there is in fact a waveform down here. So the audio is there, and if we go into the edit panel, you will see everything is still there. I still have 2 mono audio tracks, audio 1 and audio 2, which I can rename correctly during my second pass edit. So we're not losing anything. Remember, we never do a full edit, or we very, very rarely do a full edit in the cut panel. So we will end up going to the edit panel later. That's fine. This is all still here. The reason I think this happens is just to try and make this a little bit easier to make a first assembly, although you're not going to be doing any J cuts or L cuts with this particular setup. Now, audio is still there, it's just displayed differently, but we can have dedicated audio tracks in the cut panel. We can add them by navigating to some audio, and here in the Scene 10 audio bin, I've got a wild track of the skate park. I can just drag that down right to the bottom, and there it will create a new audio track which will be labeled A1 in here, but if we go to the edit panel, it is actually A3. So any audio tracks that we create in the cut panel, in the edit panel will appear below the initial audio tracks required by any material that we put down on our timeline. So if we have video with 2 or even 3 or 4 audio channels, what is labeled A1 here will become A5. New audio tracks that we add will always appear below the tracks created by our footage, and that will make it easier to navigate later on. It doesn't mean that we suddenly have some kind of nightmare in track A1 where this is now overwriting the audio. It doesn't do that, so we are okay with that. And then we can just click on that and we can play around with the volume all we like. There's really not much in the way of keyframing controls, so we don't have a pen tool, we don't have a way of changing audio over time except for a straight fade. So again, it's very, very basic. It really is just kind of getting things in the right kind of place before moving on to the edit panel to finish the job. We cannot finish an edit here, and we can do very, very little with audio in this window. As long as we understand that and we know that we are intending to go to the edit panel later, that is absolutely fine. And we can skip back and forth between edit and cut as often as we like. They both cooperate with each other pretty well. Any changes I make in either panel will feed through to the other one. Okay, so we don't need to worry about being completely finished in the cut panel. We can actually flip-flop between these 2 panels if that's how we like to work. And when we're working with a few select reels, we might like to do precisely that. It depends on the style in which we come to work. So that's pretty much all of the gotchas I wanted to cover regarding audio in the cut panel. Our interactions with audio are pretty limited to either dragging things down or volume. Right? So it is really just about getting stuff in loosely the right place and then going into the edit panel and then Fairlight later on for a complex audio mix, but not in this course, obviously. So it is just about getting stuff in loosely the right place and then finishing the job elsewhere. The idea is just to make this first assembly as fast as possible. So that covers the kind of general gotchas for audio in the cut panel that I wanted to cover. In the next lecture, we're going to look at a very particular audio effect called the stereo fixer, which can be very useful under certain circumstances. So click on through to the next lecture,